close.
All right. Well, you all outdid yourself. I thought we'd have 12 trades before the deadline, then we had 20. Um, I call you degenerates, I call you delinquents, I call you all sorts of terrible, terrible names, but you continue to outdo yourself time and time again. So thank you, everybody, for making this league so much fun. The trade deadline has come and gone. Those of us who are trade addicts have been trying to figure out what the hell to do with our hands for the last 3 or 4 days. But we are back on the pod talking about the last day that was the deadline, the state of the league now, and the playoff push that has begun that we can't really do much more than free agency to try and impact. So, with that overly long invite, I've got the Chargers, Eagles, and Broncos here. Gentlemen, how we feeling?
Alive.
I'm I'm sad. I can't trade. There's no reason to look at rosters. It's a pretty dark time.
This is the dead period of the league.
Truly the darkest timeline. But hey, we can look back at the times that were good, the 20 trades that took place before the deadline happened. We can talk about what we liked, didn't like in terms of the values, some of the teams shifting around, and then kind of what the playoff race is looking like for each of the AFC and NFC. Teams are definitely separating, but I think there's definitely plenty of intrigue left in the races. So we'll start with the trades and kicking us off. The last trade that was not covered on the second podcast last week, the Wednesday pod, um, Eagles and Broncos, kicking off the deadline push on Thursday. Broncos giving up Mark Ingram, Kamu Gruger Hill, and the Colts second, and the Browns fifth for Nick Westbrook Ikene, DJ Reader, and Harold Landry. So picking up a couple of IR fellas and some cap to make it work for a couple of promising picks. Makes a lot of sense for both of you.
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped about this from a from a point standpoint. I don't have to worry about it at all. Landry is better than whoever I was going to get at that early second pick, and Reader is hopefully out the rest of the season. But one can only hope.
Yep. Moving along, Titans Ravens. Titans moving a couple of productive defensive players for Joe Schobert and Buda Baker. Schobert has been not productive is the wrong word, but opportunistic in his role with the Titans. Baker is a good name on a good salary. Just a temporary ad for Titans here. Titans continues to sell, and Ravens adds a couple of point-scoring defensive pieces on the cheap.
I think that was kind of unfortunate for the Ravens to get Ingram, just due to the fact that they went and traded for Chubb. Like, I think if Ravens was really hoping to get point scoring out of Melvin to see the end of the season, I think that hit a reasonable amount. That just becomes unfortunate for him.
Well, I mean, this trade happened after the Chubb trade, I believe. So
It did?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because actual NFL. Then yeah, I don't.
I mean, the Dolphins seem to have the same kind of mindset as the 49ers of you could never have enough pass rushers.
Oh, definitely.
So is Ingram going to get the snap count he was getting before? Probably not. But I think he's still going to get the high leverage situations. Again, you just make it 60% of them instead of 80% of them.
Yeah, I feel like this was just like I don't want Schobert, and I'm believing in Hawkins as the future in Atlanta. But this just feels like really cheap for Buda.
Yep, I agree. It's more of a taking Buda and an unwanted Schubert who isn't productive for somebody that's productive at linebacker and similar production at safety. But I agree. I think I like Buda a little bit more, but I don't hate it. I like Hawkins.
I think it helps that Hawkins is going to be $500,000 for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
So if he does keep that role, it's a lot better than Buddha.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, we've got a punter trade, a fifth to swap from the Broncos to the Texans. Good for you. Then Browns giving up Jimmy Ward, who I feel changed teams like 6 times over the course of the last week. Was a waiver claim that I lost out on the Panthers, who promptly tried to trade him and then cut him. Then I think the Broncos got him and was able to swap him for a 5th round pick.
Yeah, between the time that I activated him from IR, he was traded to the Panthers, traded to the Patriots, cut by the Patriots, reacquired by the Panthers, dropped by the Panthers, acquired by the Browns, and then traded to the Packers.
So much.
Definitely got his freaking miles the last couple of weeks. And we've got Broncos shedding some cap, dumping Baker Mayfield, AJ Green, and paying his 24th third to do so, picking up Sam Darnold and Colin Johnson in the process. That perilous portion of the season where got to avoid starter points and at the same time dump some cap. So third to downgrade from I think that's over $40 million between Baker and AJ Green, $44 million to Sam Darnold's. Basically, jumped up about $10 million for a third, probably going rate at this point.
And Sam falls off at the end of the year, right?
Yeah, Sam's a 1-year contract, and Baker's a 2, and AJ was 3. But AJ's probably going to retire.
You hope so before 2026 is.
Oh, I don't hope so anymore.
Oh, I know you don't give a shit. But if you're the Seahawks, you're hoping he retires for 2026.
Yeah, and Colin Johnson's just a very cheap dart throw piece.
Yep, makes sense. Then I dumped Will Harris, who I acquired, who right after I acquired promptly lost his job in Detroit. Dump him to the Harris owner. Although it does look like he's had a productive last couple of games, so maybe he's got it back at this point. But dump him for a 5th. Good contract. Seems to be a not consistent role player, but when he does play, scores well.
Yeah, I couldn't find any takers by the deadline, so I ended up cutting them.
All right. Well,
so I basically paid a 5th to end up cutting a guy.
all right. Punter swap without the 5th. Boo. Talking about Baker, trade my 24th third with Justin Simmons to get Baker. Basically, this was meant to be a lateral move to save me some cap from Justin Simmons, $13.5 million to Buddha's 5.9. So cut about $7.5 million off my cap and get a younger player at the same position. So seemed like a win-win.
I like it for you, honestly. Simmons is solid, but Buddha's definitely better.
Buddha's cheaper and his injury is less spooky.
I still think Simmons is the better of the 2 safeties, but I think that's a fantastic deal when taking price into account.
Yeah, he definitely is, but he's not twice the player that Buddha is.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep. Then one of 2 things that happened on Thursday that broke my brain and then set me into full fuck it mode. Chargers and Packers make a deal. So again, I thought Matt and I had a framework of a deal that was going to happen, and then kerplow, this happened and fucked everything up. But Chargers giving up Jacoby, Derrick Henry, Elijah Mitchell, Devontae Adams, Demarcus Robinson, Travis Kelce, Hassan Reddick, Desmond King, Julian Love for Geno Smith, Nick Chubb, Brandon Powell, Cortland Sutton, Mark Andrews, Jordan Hicks, Jalen Ramsey, Isaiah Rogers, and Jonathan Abram. The fact that there was that many quality players that moved, the salary worked, the years worked, and there were no picks involved, again, was one of many things that two things that happened on Thursday that just full on broke my brain.
The amount of I spent I don't even know how fucking long. I spent so much time putting at literally just with a calculator being like, okay, what needs to be swapped back and forth, because the actual framework of this deal and really what it was born out of was I wanted Gino, a Henry for Chubb swap, and Adams going to Green Bay. And from there it was like, okay, Jeremy was on the fence and was like, I can't do it. And I was like, okay, whatever. The Hicks, Ramsey, an Abram portion and my Reddick, King, and Love portion solely happened just to make the money work on the other side of things. And then Isaiah Rogers and Elijah Mitchell and DeMarcus came in with the Brandon Powell, Isaiah Rogers, and then the tight end swap as a come on, Jeremy, you can do this, bud. I believe in you. But there was so much time just spent as a fucking calculator, because Jeremy, I think when we made the trade, Jeremy had like $700,000 in cap space. That was it. So there was zero wiggle room. I had like 2 million in cap space, so it wasn't like massive cap space back on my end. It was a lot. That was a lot.
I love this so much, but I really do think that you have the better end of this deal
by miles.
Yeah.
You basically just went, hey, do you want to swap Jacoby for Gino and get drastically older in the process? And Jeremy went, yeah, that sounds good.
I think it works out for Jeremy in the sense that he had the players that he sent back are very good, but the players I sent him are better right now. Now, the big thing for me was the fact that I trade extended Gino. I trade extended Nick Chubb. So I went from having older man Derrick Henry to younger Nick Chubb on a similar-ish deal. I got infinitely cheap Geno Smith.
Mm-hmm.
And Adams was expiring, turned him into Cortland Sutton, who's at least on a contract for next season at fairly inexpensive. Went down a little bit from Kelsey to Mark Andrews. I just have to hope Andrews fucking
a little bit. You mean
unbroken.
Got a decade younger?
Right, like barely.
Oh no, I meant cost wise, just cost.
I care more about the years on that one, the ages.
Yeah, no, that is more of an impact because I think it's like $1 million and change difference. Reddick expiring, Hicks not expiring. I don't give a fuck about Jalen Ramsey. He's too expensive. He'll be off my roster come the offseason. Don't give a fuck about Isaiah Rogers and Jonathan Abrams expiring. He doesn't matter. I was losing Lev either way. So really, it was like losing Elijah is the only downside on my end, in my opinion.
You got 6 years younger at tight end.
Yeah, a bit.
But Elijah lost his job, so you really didn't lose anything.
He didn't really lose his job, though.
It's going to be a timeshare. I think Elijah's going to see 15 and 20 touches a game.
What a waste of draft picks if they cut CMC's touches.
Oh, no. See, that's the thing, though. We can get into a whole fucking pod eating conversation about this that we can have afterwards.
Yeah.
But I believe Mike and I have come to the similar conclusion that it's effectively going to be 5 players are on the field, maybe 6, that are just – it's going to be the same core group of 5 of Debo, Ayuk, Kelsey, CMC, and then either Juice or Elijah Mitchell.
You mean Fiddle?
So a bunch of slot receivers and a running back.
Yes. Well, Ayuk's not really a slot receiver. He's the one guy that actually is like
He's like
just a
the
receiver.
true receiver there.
Right.
Right, but Christian McCaffrey's a slot receiver.
Yeah, no, like we will 110% this weekend have multiple plays where we line up where you have Debo and Ayuk on the outside. You'll have McCaffrey in the slot. You'll have Kittle on the line, and you'll have Mitchell in the backfield.
Right.
I can't wait to see McCaffrey's stat line of like 7 attempts, but he still has like a respectable amount of yardage, like 50, 60 yards.
Right.
And has like 14 targets and 11 receptions for like 160 yards.
We knew that Jimmy needed his check down, and we got him the best check down you can have in the NFL.
Just again, to Matt's point, we won't spend an entire pot on this, even though we could. If the 49ers trot out Elijah Mitchell, Kyle Juszczyk, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, and George Kittle as the 5 skill players, what defensive scheme do you put out there? Do you put a nickel? Do you put a base scheme? Do you put a 46? Like, what the hell do you do with that? Because those guys have enough versatility to line it up and go power, or to go complete 5 wide with that set and still be effective. So
I mean, you'd have to play a big dime with 3 safeties.
Yeah, I think that's your best option. But then your concern is like, okay,
They're just going to run it up the middle.
yeah,
if you go big time, and yeah, I'm putting everyone up on the line, putting Debo and the 2 backs in the backfield, and saying, pick your poison.
Debo in motion, and then you'll have either McCaffrey or Mitchell lined out, and you just run it up the gut, probably with Mitchell. I feel like Mitchell's going to get a lot more of the inside run, and McCaffrey will get a lot more of the outside zone stuff.
So I will say this in defense of Jeremy's side of this deal. We say often on this podcast, in the offseason, treat this as a dynasty league in terms of acquiring asset and use dynasty prices. In season, think of it as a seasonal league because you need to buy on kind of in-season prices. If we think of this as a seasonal league, then you got to prefer the side that Jeremy gets.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
If you think of it as a dynasty league, then yes, I agree. I would much rather have what Chargers got back. So
it's impressive that this all kind of came about because of Geno. Like his $450,000 free agent auction pickup turned into this.
Mm-hmm.
It's
And like just to further that idea from Mike, this is Derrick Henry's schedule rest of season. Broncos this week, Packers the next week, Bengals, Eagles in week 13, Jags, Chargers, Texans, Cowboys. If he makes it to the conference finals in the NFC, he gets near 40-point Derrick Henry against the Texans.
yeah.
oh my God.
Before
the conference finals.
If that man makes it to the conference finals, y'all get ready to have Derrick Henry run for 200 yards and a couple of touchdowns. Just telling you now.
I mean, Adam's schedule is just as nice. Like I know he's kind of cooled off. Well, other than last week, he's kind of cooled off. But
the first half of last week, but still,
yeah.
The next couple of weeks are going to be rough, but the Colts will be. Actually, I don't know. Colts is weird because they're ranked really well against wide receivers, but I think that's primarily just because
they're already up by like 4 touchdowns.
Yeah. And then Broncos, tough game, tough defense,
hit or miss.
But then you get Seahawks, Chargers, Rams, Patriots, another tougher defense. Steelers, conference finals. Jeremy just has to make the conference finals, and he's got a fucking buzzsaw on his offense right now between those 2 players.
Yeah, Kelsey's season isn't that bad either. But yeah, this is solid. Like it works out on both ends. Jeremy's clearly going for it.
Yep, that's the conversation we had. I was like, part of it was he was stuck on trading Geno because he was afraid of losing his quarterback insurance, and I was like, you You gotta go for it, my guy. You gotta grab it and go for it.
You
Do it.
need to trust them, so trust them.
All right, so we followed that one up with a punter swap. So I'm sorry.
Ooh.
As part of this, Matt
Absolutely.
dumped Anthony Barr in a fifth to the Broncos. Broncos and I swap punters. Super exciting.
No
Bears
fifth.
swap.
No
Hall-
fifth involved.
Unbelievable.
Bears swaps Hall of Famer Marquez Callaway and Malik Hooker for Chris Barnes and Jordan Whitehead. Barnes, I seem to recall, the Panthers couldn't give away last week. So him and Jordan Whitehead for Callaway. Sure.
Mm,
I took on Peyton Hendershot for free.
That's a decent acquisition for free.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good get.
Yeah, I was happy to take the shot there. He seems to be getting some run there. Granted, he's on a 1-year deal, and I couldn't trade extend him, so it's not like anything past that because he's not going to get franchised. But we'll see if he can give me some cheap points. Then, in efforts to try and keep up with the Jeremys, Falcons giving up on Debo, Jerry Tillery, J.J. Watt, Jamel Dean, and Adrian Amos for Stephon Diggs, Dante Fowler, and Dwayne Smoot. So Eagles continuing his sell-off, swapping Diggs for Debo, and then his two productive DNs getting J.J. Watt back. Again, I see why you do it. It would have been nice to get a pick with this, but it doesn't sound like Falcons was offering or had them to give at this point.
Oh, he has them. He's just stingy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But
That's
no,
it.
honestly, I'm amazed that Debo got out of his hold. Like, I was certain he was going to hold that guy forever.
I think he moving him for Diggs is the smart move, 100%. Just because Debo is the biggest suffering that's going to happen in San Francisco is because they have so many guys that they can scheme into the plays. I don't feel like any of them are going to be like top fantasy guys, except for McCaffrey, just because he's one of those guys that is going to get usage in every sense of the word. While Debo can now be more of a like threat of a piece and less of a like, okay, we gotta get Debo his 4 rushing touches a game and his 12 targets or whatever the fuck, when it was just him and Ayuk to start the season.
Yeah, I think he can be more in the flow of the offense, and he was most successful when he could just create because, okay, I got the ball 10 yards down the field. Now it's time to go eat.
Yep.
All right. So Eagles does that, and then the fun continues, sending Ryan Tannehill, AJ Dillon, Debo, MVS, Gasecki, Chargers kicker, the Giants punter, JJ Watt to me for Taylor Heineke, Braxton Berrios, Young Hoku, the Patriots punter, LJ Collier, Boye Mafe, and a shitload of first round picks. Discuss.
I like it if you package the idea of. I didn't really care for Eagles, your acquisition of players in that Diggs deal, unless it is considering what you then did with Vikings. Because I think you moved, like you got, I'd say 90 cents on the dollar in the Falcons trade, and then turned around and traded $1 for like $1.25. Not to say it was a bad move by Vikings. I think moving all of those picks and acquiring those players is very good in the sense that, okay, you went and acquired those players, which you know what they are, and you're a team that's trying to compete now or compete in the next year or two. But obviously, Mike, you're just going to fucking do what you do every year. So we're looking at just this season as your plan. I like going out and getting, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 first round picks in 2024. You can just go and reinvent your team in a year.
Yeah.
Just do that.
Yeah. And do you have your own first in 24?
Yep. I think I have 7 first-round picks in 2024.
Oh, there you go. But yeah, I mean, honestly, like this works out for you long term, obviously. And shit, I mean, if Howell can't unseat Heineke, then you have a very cheap acquisition of starting quarterback next year.
Yeah, I like Heineke. I got Mafe back, which I view almost as a first. Everybody else that I got rid of, I either like not that I question their future, but it's kind of like what are they gonna do for me this year that they didn't or what are they gonna do for me next year that they didn't do for me this year, and I was still third in my division. So like
You're going to get your points instead of Caleb Williams.
right. So now I have to be patient and wait a year, and all of these picks will be worth more than they are right now.
Well, the fun part is after watching a bunch of teams trying to emulate his success in tanking, RJ gets to say, "Hold my beer."
Yeah, he's to do it again next year.
Oh yeah, if any of you even thought you had a chance at somebody like Marvin Harrison Jr., you were sadly mistaken.
Well, I don't know that any of these picks are high enough to do that, but
Mine
RJ's will be.
well, yeah, but RJ, you should have one. That shouldn't be Marvin.
That's gonna be Marvin.
Well, I can't wait to see the Eagles Seahawks tank battle next year. But I love how, God, like what was it? I think it was Seahawks who was like, I didn't realize the level of tanking, and I was like, you didn't see RJ do anything.
Yeah, well, okay, so
round 2 of that is next year.
well, you assume this league is is a dynasty, so
Yeah.
it's built on like an accumulation of assets throughout the years, but like there's so much like turnover in this league as far as trading that you don't really have to do that. You can literally be a bare bones team and the worst team in the league and trade into everything the next year, as
Yeah.
long as you have enough people that are willing participants on the other side, which typically you do have at least 2 or 3 teams that are in like teardown mode.
Yeah. I mean, you literally were that team. Like you were 101 last year and you built up, and we all thought you were, a very solid playoff contender by season kickoff, and it just didn't go that way.
No, my hats off to my division mates. They built slightly better teams, and they got me the weeks that we played, and I just knew that I couldn't come back from that. I mean, I probably could have limped into the playoffs as like the last seed, but then it's like, what do I really do? I hope I get a good pairing, like against a non-division mate or something like that, and like,
Pray any given Sunday things happen.
Right. And like obviously like we know what my roster was, like it was good, but like I don't know if the second level of like depth was there. Like I had the Travis Kelce's and the Derrick Henrys, but like other than them and Stephon Diggs, like there was no other wide receiver productive on my roster.
Mm-hmm.
Like on a consistent basis, I should say.
Yeah. That's all right. You're gonna have fun with it next year.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be great. RJ's gonna absolutely suck ass this coming season. He's gonna get the 101. The fucking Seahawks are gonna give Geno Smith like a 4-year contract.
Yeah.
Trey Lance is gonna come back next year. I'll have to make a decision on quarterback. Going into 2024, RJ will trade me his 2 worst firsts for Geno Smith in that obscene contract as he comes into another Pro Bowl season. Then RJ will come in as a fucking juggernaut to beat the fuck out of the AFC or the NFC East.
I don't know. You said something about Trey Lance in there, and I just envision my tanking from like a year ago, but just 2 years later in the process, still with Trey Lance.
Oh man, no. I just I think about like the Patriots getting 21 points this week or whatever it was. And I'm like, no, RJ's going to set a new league record for lowest points in a week next year for sure.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna get 0 in a week.
Yeah. Find your punter kicker bye week similarities and just have all free agents.
No, he'll have a bunch of guys that are on rosters they won't
play.
touch the field. He'll find that DN that is like the seventh guy on the roster, but he also happens to be the fucking long
Yeah.
snapper.
Yep. That my team will consist of a whole bunch of tight ends and defensive ends that are technically long snappers.
Oh God, this league's too much fun. All right, so after the big one, I continue to make two smaller moves. Jamal Jennings to the Bengals for a fourth, and then trading my future first for Isaiah Simmons back from the Seahawks. So my first was the last of my collection of 24 firsts that I moved. I now have none. And Jennings had to be moved to be able to fit Simmons's contract in.
That was a fun couple of minutes. That was fuck. I need somebody to take Javon Jennings. Who wants him?
I need 2 years. Who wants Jawan Jennings?
That one makes me sad because I think I would have paid more. I just didn't react fast enough.
It was literally a case of Chris said, "I do," and he was in Chris's possession.
Right.
Because you and I were both like, "Oh, we'll take him."
Yep. But I do I love the Simmons trade. Like I actually think he's worth more than a first right now. Like he's on a crazy roll. Like,
Well, again, it's at some point you just need to take freak athletes at positions and wait for them to figure it out. Like he's in a high leverage tackling situation, but he's also getting sacks. Like last week, before, he had a sack and a forced fumble and a recovery. This week he's got 6 tackles and a sack. Like
2 weeks ago, he's got 4 tackles and an interception.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, he is just a stat line monster.
Yep.
He regardless of position, he plays like a playmaker role similar to like what I'm trying to think of who else has played this type of a role. Logan Ryan did the year that he was the highest scoring defensive player.
Oh.
Was that 2 years ago?
Something
I
like
think
that.
so, yeah.
Used inside the box, used in coverage, even used on like quarterback rushing. Just
Kareem Jackson did kind of that when he was in Houston.
Yes.
He was listed as a cornerback, but he was playing nickel, safety, linebacker, and they'd send him as cornerback blitzes.
Well, he also did that the last year in Denver when they changed his position to safety. That's what got him the past, what was it, 5 years or 4 years of like just extra longevity in his career, is they moved him to safety, and they were just like,
well, he was playing safety in Houston. He just was listed as a cornerback on MFL. That was a fun time. I missed that.
oh, the wild, wild west of like 2017, 2018 MFL.
I think that was 2019. My first good year.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like he was actually a cornerback in like 2017.
Yeah. When he was in Houston, he was a cornerback. Once he got shipped to Denver, he became a safety.
That's right. I'm getting him confused. I'm thinking he was in Denver a while ago, but it was other way.
I think he was in Denver at some point prior to going to Houston, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, Jackson was in Denver at one point for sure.
Oh, Kareem Jackson?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, he was in Denver for like 5 years.
There you go.
His career's been so long, you could think we were talking about two different people.
Yeah, he won the Super Bowl with them when Peyton.
Yeah.
Then homie went and got paid in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
And then came back to Denver because he'd rather live there than Houston.
All right, then a couple of just smaller moves.
Finally, a good punter trade.
Yep. Have gotta get back to it here. A fifth going for with the Colts punter. For the Jets punter, Kevin Givens, Zach Bond, and a fifth for Jermichael Hasty and Damian Bird. Bird, a nice receiver pickup for the Rams on the cheap.
Yep.
And then Mac Wilson for a fifth to the Steelers. So, couple
Solid
of,
pickup.
yep, couple of big moves, couple of small moves right at the deadline. So now we get to look at what the hell's happening in each conference. If we start with the NFC, Falcons, Packers, Giants, and Rams are your division leaders. Arguably, all of them got better at the deadline, except everyone on the Rams keeps dying, which is incredible. From a wild card perspective, you've got Panthers, Bucks, and Commanders at 9-4. I'm sitting at 8-5. Cardinals, Eagles, sitting at 7-6. So you've got about 6 teams that are still in the wild card hunt. Granted, some of them have started moving towards next year, such as the Eagles and the proclaimed Panthers at this point. So there's a question of, can I catch them and be that last team in the playoffs that RJ didn't want to be? We'll see. But again, this is a for sure deal. But yeah, it's going to be a bloodbath in the NFC between the Packers and their potential firepower getting through the first couple of games. Granted, they're 2 games back of the Giants, so that first seed is probably not going to happen. Jeremy may end up getting a pretty good wild card team to face off against, but it's going to be a bit of a slog to get to the NFC Championship game for him.
I think it's reasonable to. There's a chance that Jeremy could take the 1 seed. Jeremy has a fucking cupcake schedule then this season.
Yeah.
Like he plays the Bills, the Jets, the Colts, and the Bears. I believe none of those teams are above 500. The best team is the Bears of those.
Yeah, but Giants, his only hard one is the Ravens.
He's got Ravens and Commanders. Commanders isn't necessarily like hard, but that's a better team than anybody Green Bay's facing.
Yeah.
And then the Falcons has to play AFC North Browns leader, AFC North tied leader Bengals, or I guess now second seed Bengals, me, and then he gets the Saints.
Yeah.
So he's got 3 hard-ish games.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Giants because he does have Josh Allen, who may or may not miss like a month of time.
Yeah.
I'm less worried about Josh. I think he's going to be fine.
Sure. He's still got to miss time, though. But I'm going to very much enjoy watching 2 of the 3 9-4 tanking teams make the playoffs because no one will catch them.
Well, let's see. I'm trying to catch them. Buccaneers is trying to make it.
You'll do it. Well, you'll do it. Oh, I guess Bucks isn't
tanking, so
and yeah, he just can't seem to find Panthers losing.
Well, yeah, Panthers had the Saints this week, and he did his best. And hey, he's still in stat correction territory. But next couple of weeks, Panthers has Steelers, Browns, Chiefs, and Bucks. So he should lose 3 or potentially all 4 of those games.
Yeah, it'll be a fun little race there.
Yep.
Is the AFC playoff picture set?
No.
Kind of.
The teams making it.
The teams are, yeah.
So your division winners are looking like the Browns, the Titans, the Dolphins, and either you or the Chiefs in the West. The other view is the top wild card, and then the Bengals and Ravens are the other wild cards. Like that's pretty well set. The Raiders are 2 games back of 9-4 for the last wild card, and we're selling. So again, the 7 teams are probably set. The relative order is probably pretty set. Just a couple of small things.
The best part about your trade, Matt, with getting Gino is the fact that it's not just like a done division at this point. It's actually now.
It's legit. What it's going to come down to the last week unless I beat Falcons. Actually, it could technically. I think regardless of if I beat Falcons, it comes down to the last week unless Chiefs drops a game. Assuming I win both other games, lose Falcons, he wins all 3 of his games. We play the final week. If I win, we'd tie, and I'd have the head-to-head over him.
That would be incredible to watch that happen. Because I was watching this, I was like, what's he going to do after week 11? Like, when Jacoby takes to the bench again, what's going to happen there?
Oh, I was planning on just praying that I won the division, and then Gino came to the rescue.
No, I'm interested to see if in any way, shape, or form the Bills makes the playoffs. He has been on a heater since getting Dak back, and his points are not low whatsoever. And I know, he's got a long way to go with it, but I would very much like to see that happen. But he does have three of 4 very hard games: Packers, Vikings, Rams, Patriots.
He'd
have to go out. He'd have to win out.
He'd have to win out.
And Dolphins would have to lose out.
And the Dolphins would have to lose out, and then he'd have the head-to-head over the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Did he play the Ravens this year? I don't believe. He did play the Ravens. He lost to the Ravens, so he'd lose the head-to-head there.
Yeah. But Dolphins has Vikings, Bears, Seahawks, Jets. He's not losing out.
Yeah.
So it was a fun ride while it lasted, I guess. In that 30-second window.
Oh, hold on. Gotta police the league. Dolphins has an IR violation.
Mind your own fucking business.
Enforce the cap for Jeremy. Let us cut our players.
All right. Well, we can do post trade power ranks next week. I think again we need to do a little bit more research before we can really jump into all that stuff. See if we can get some of our power rank experts like the Panthers and Lions on here to update their simulations accordingly. Any parting thoughts in terms of the trade deadline and kind of the push for the playoffs?
Push the trade deadline back a week or 2.
Yep. Even if the NFL doesn't, that's my whole thing too, is push it back a little bit.
I agree.
More trading is more fun, although I do feel like a bit of an addict shaking, basically saying, come on, man, give me some more trades. Let me make some more trades, man.
I need a hit, man. I need a hit.
Install a trade czar if we do push it back, especially.
Matt and I have always been happy to volunteer for that role. Well, until next time, gentlemen, I think we're just going to stick with one pod this week versus the 2.5 that we had last week. But thanks for joining, and we'll be back with Power Ranks next week.